Hello and welcome to the SWBN News Watch, where we look at global events from a Christian perspective. I am Chiemela Chike and I'm so thankful that you joined us today. Now let's have a look at some of the major headlines that caught our attention during the week. Stay with us. A headline flashing on the page 6 of the New Telegraph newspaper says that Adegboye expresses concern over Kaduna attacks and security in Nigeria. The paper writes that the General Overseer of the Redeemed Christian Church of God, Pastor Enoch Adegboye, has raised concerns over the killings in the country, particularly in Kaduna State. Speaking during the April Thanksgiving service, the cleric said he is not sure if there would be an election in 2023 because of the overall security situation in the country. In the most recent attacks on civilian lives in Kaduna State, Nigeria, over 150 persons are reported missing following a train attack that left 9 passengers dead. Premium Times reported that explosives were used to immobilize the train before shooting at some passengers and kidnapping many others during the 28th of March attack. Meanwhile, Vanguard reports that 191 passengers have been confirmed safe. According to Premium Times, the Nigerian Railway Corporation has said its manifest showed 362 passengers on board the train. Premium Time added that many Nigerians believe the figures are much higher due to the fraud and manipulations that happen at train stations. On the 30th of March 2022, bandits invaded a military checkpoint along the Kaduna-Abuja Expressway, killing 10 soldiers. Because of all the anomalies, Adegboye said he was thinking more of the nation's current state than 2023. In his very words, quote, "That's why I'm not thinking of 2023. Maybe that's why God has not told me about the election. People are killing themselves over 2023, but are we sure there will be a 2023? There could be a rapture before then," unquote. Adding to this, he went on to say that it is also crucial for Christians who are interested to join politics because we read that even witches are aspiring. So why will Christians who are children of God draw back? The idea that politics is not a field for Christians has been a source of controversial debates, but are the grounds shifting? Now, talking about Christians in politics, Barrister Imam Adegboye has declared interest for governor of Cross River State, Nigeria, come 2023. She made this known when she released her official campaign poster on her Facebook account. Adegboye is vying for governorship under the umbrella of the People's Democratic Party and has 5 major focal points in which she seeks to change the status quo as it relates to schools, hospitals, infrastructure, farms, and technology. Meanwhile, in 2011, Adegboye campaigned as the governorship candidate of the Labour Party and ran with a mission to restore Cross River's greatness in infrastructure, education, health, research, and development. Early 2022, the Imam Adegboye Foundation, TINAF, celebrated 10 years of helping and supporting widows and persons living with disabilities in Cross River State. The foundation is campaigning to end harmful practices against Cross Riverian widows and orphans. Moreover, Adegboye is a believer with decades of experience, and she runs the Neighborhood Church Online, a platform that connects believers around the world with God's Word. Moving on, a headline running on CBN News says that Israel's government has been thrown into crisis after leader abruptly resigns. The body of the story says that the move has thrown Israel's political future into doubt. This happened following the resignation of the chairwoman of the country's governing coalition over a religious dispute, robbing the coalition of its majority in parliament and raising the possibility that Israel would be forced to hold another national election. Chairwoman Edith Silman said she could not play a role in harming Israel's Jewish identity. In a statement, Suma said she would continue trying to persuade her friends to return home and form a right-wing government, and believes another government can be created in the Knesset. According to SWBN News, Prime Minister Naftali Bennett, who leads the right-wing Yaminat party, which Suma is a member of, was reportedly caught off guard by the announcement and learned about his coalition losing its majority through news outlets. Suma's decision means that Bennett's governing coalition only has 60 seats in Israel's 120-seat parliament, forcing the government to rely on support from the opposition to pass legislation. If another person resigns, the government will collapse, and Israelis will face another national election. Speaking of political uncertainties, controversial debates have been rising over President Joe Biden's statement on a New World Order following a business roundtable meeting at the White House. Independent News claims that Joe Biden caused a stir during a gathering of business leaders at the White House when he alluded to a coming New World Order in the wake of the Ukraine crisis. Addressing the Business Roundtable CEO quarterly meeting, which included the bosses of General Motors, Apple, and Amazon, Biden concluded his remarks by saying, quote, "Now is the time when things are shifting. There's going to be a new world order out there, and we've got to lead it. And we've got to unite the rest of the free world in doing it." Unquote.
I've already probably taken too much time of your time right now, but I'm happy. I'm told I'm going to take some questions, Mary. Is that right? Well, I'm happy to start taking questions, but thank you for all you've been doing. I think, my mother had an expression, out of everything terrible, something good will come if you look hard enough for it. I think this presents us with some significant opportunities to make some real changes. We are at an inflection point, I believe, in the world economy. Not just the world economy, in the world. It occurs every 3 or 4 generations. As one of the top military people said to me in a secure meeting the other day, 60 million people died between 1900 and 1946. And since then, we established a liberal world order, and that hadn't happened in a long while. A lot of people dying, but nowhere near the chaos. And now is a time when things are shifting. There's going to be a new world order out there, and we've got to lead it. We've got to unite the rest of the free world in doing it. So anyway, I'm going to hush up, Mary. Fire away.
Meanwhile, the Independent News went on to write that the phrase quickly began trending on Twitter, with commentators wasting no time to gloat over what they saw as an accidental invocation of a well-worn conspiracy theory, claiming that an elite globalist cabal operating from the shadows is plotting to carve up the world and impose totalitarian rule. While the Independent News believes the choice of words was accidental, Kim Everson of Hill TV has a different opinion. Watch.
Let's talk about the people claiming it's a big conspiracy theory. The Anti-Defamation League categorizes the phrase New World Order under extremism, terrorism, and bigotry. They define it as, quote, a term used to refer to a right-wing conspiracy theory that became popular among anti-government extremists from the 1990s onwards. New World Order conspiracists believe that a tyrannical socialist one-world conspiracy has already taken over most of the planet and schemes to eliminate the last bastion of freedom, the United States, with the help of collaborators within the government. Through repressive measures, as well as manufactured crises such as terrorist attacks and pandemics, the globalist conspirators seek to eliminate dissent and to disarm Americans so that the New World Order can move in and enslave them. New World Order conspiracists also commonly believe that hundreds of concentration camps have been built in the U.S. ready to house dissenters, that the government will declare martial law, possibly on a pretext such as responding to a terrorist attack, and that the government will engage in mass gun confiscations. That sounds nuts, right? But if we rephrase it with fewer charged words, for example, let's replace tyrannical and socialist with authoritarian, change enslave with control, and swap out putting dissenters into concentration camps with something like silencing them on social media. It suddenly doesn't sound that insane. During the pandemic, many of us lost our freedoms, and in the recent era, we've seen dissenters put in jail, like Julian Assange and various protesters. Now, despite the ADL claiming the idea of a New World Order as a conspiracy theory touted by conspiracy theorists, interestingly, numerous world leaders have been throwing the idea around.
With the increase in censorship, language control, mandatory lockdowns, and other symptoms of a non-democratic system, it would be logical to believe that there is a new world order that frowns at freedom. Whether it's freedom of speech, movement, or freedom to choose, the world is rapidly becoming more draconian. Moving on, a headline flashing on the Christian Post says that Myanmar military destroys over 47 churches in two predominantly Christian states, rights groups say. Details of the story read that Myanmar's military has destroyed at least 47 churches and more than a dozen affiliated buildings in its attacks in the predominantly Christian states of Chin and Kayas since it staged a coup last February, human rights groups have said. About 35 churches and 15 buildings associated with churches were destroyed in Chin State. The Irrawaddy reported that about 12 churches were damaged in Kaya State, formerly known as Karenni, between February 2021 and January 2022, citing the Chin Human Rights Organization and the Karenni Human Rights Group. Christians are a majority in Chin State, which borders India, and make up a substantial part of the population of Kaya State, which borders Thailand. Christians in conflict zones, including these two states, are ethnic minorities who live in the various conflict zones across the country's borders. Formerly known as Burma, the Southeast Asian country is home to the world's longest civil war, which began in 1948. The conflict between the country's military, locally known as Tatmadaw, and ethnic minority militias escalated after the military coup on the 1st of February 2021, as the ethnic militias have been morally supporting pro-democracy protesters. Since late last year, the Buddhist nationalist junta has carried out artillery and airstrikes on civilian areas in Chin State and Kaya State because of strong resistance from local people in those areas. The Irrawaddy said, adding that religious buildings in Christian sites and Buddhist areas were targeted because civilians often take shelter in them when clashes erupt. Christians make up just 7% of the majority Buddhist nation. Myanmar is ranked number 12 on Open Doors USA's 2022 World Watch list of 50 countries where Christians face the most severe persecution. The persecution level in Myanmar is very high due to Buddhist nationalism. Burma is recognized by the U.S. State Department as a country of particular concern for egregious violations of religious liberty. Before we wrap up for this edition of the SWBN News Watch, let's take one more story. Christianity Today reports that Russian evangelical leader apologizes to Ukrainian Christians. Details read that in the highest profile statement yet of its kind, the leader of the Russian Evangelical Alliance, REA, has announced his bitterness and regret over decisions taken by his government. REA General Secretary Vitaly Vlasenko said that, quote, "I mourn what my country has done in its recent military invasion of another sovereign country, Ukraine. In the worst case scenario, I could not imagine what's now being served," end of quote. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian Council of Churches and Religious Organizations condemned Russian aggression against civilian areas in a statement released. It listed 3 churches damaged in the fighting, including an evangelical prayer house near the besieged city of Kharkiv. Thank you so much for staying with us. In our next edition, we will look at the New World Order and what it means to the church. Until then, I remain Chiemela Chike. Stay tuned to our channel. And don't forget to download the SWBN TV mobile app on Google Play Store and Apple Store.